The Cobra Aerojet was designed with feedback from long drivers such as Bryson DeChambeau and Kyle Berkshire. So will these be the fastest drivers of the year? How cool do these Cobra Aerojet drivers look? They're really giving me like sci-fi kind of fast car racing driver vibes. And I think that's kind of the whole point. A lot of R&D and research and development time into these has gone into getting more ball speed and getting quicker because the brand has so many long drivers on their team. Now, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they've got that and kind of dialed it in and paired that with that need for kind of forgiveness and control out on the golf course. Now, there are 3 models in this range, which is what we're kind of seeing becoming more common across the golf industry. We've got the regular Aerojet, which sits in the middle of the range, then we've got the LS, which is the low spinning one, and after that we've got the Max. So there's kind of this like nice continuum of increase of different factors. So if the LS here, the Aerojet in the middle, and the Max here. And the idea is, as you move across these drivers, one, they get more upright, so they're getting more draw bias as you move across. You're also getting an increase in spin and an increase in forgiveness. So if you're someone who needs less spin, you know you can go to the LS end. If you know you need more and you need more height, more forgiveness and more draw bias, you know you can move to the other end and go into that Max model. Now, let's test out all 3, see how they perform, and also see what the differences are between the models and if they do kind of follow that pattern. So I'm going to test these all in the same shaft just for fairness. I have got a 9 degree in this LS, and then the regular Aerojet and the Max are in 10.5. I'm probably going to crank them down to try and get kind of good continuous data between them all. I've got a Mitsubishi Chemical Curly White 60 gram stiff shaft, which is what I got fit to when I went and saw Cobra about these drivers. Now you can see here on the bottom of this model, we've got a lot more weight at the front and forward. That's going to kind of bring down that launch and also help bring down that spin because it's giving a lot more forward CG. I really like how this sits behind the golf ball. This is a slightly more compact head than the other 2, and I think that's really nice. Cobra have also worked on kind of the aerodynamic qualities of these a bit more, and you can kind of see that visually of the ball. So we've got a lot more of a curved sole, a lot more of a curved crown, and that in theory should help you move the golf club quicker through the air. So hopefully we'll get some really quick club head speeds. Well, that went high and straight down the middle, which is always a good start. 231 carry, I didn't feel like I struck that my best, and that's carried really nicely. It's literally split the centre line. It might never happen again, so I need to show you. Spin was very low though, 1600. I mean, the attack angle was massive, but pretty good distance for that kind of ball speed, like 230 carry from 137 ball speed. I mean, there was no spin, which is going to help that. Really stable ball flight. Just feels very solid and like consistent off the club face. I'd say that was pretty like optimum in terms of numbers. So that's carried 234, 140.9 ball speed, 200 spin, 6 upper tang angle, 95 club head speed, 148 smash. It's interesting the smash only 148 for 140 ball speed, but pretty good data so far. Now, I really like the way this kind of performs, and the data so far is like really good and consistent, but like my one irk with like Cobra stuff is, why are the grips so fat? Like, this is a standard grip, but I swear it is way bigger than any other standard grips on the market. And I feel like for a lot of golfers who kind of lose the ball to the right, having a bigger grip is not helping that, because it's just going to be harder to shut the face down and get the ball starting on target. So I feel like Cobra have really nailed like a lot of things with this golf club, but if I was going to put this in play, I would rip the grip off and put something else on, because I really do feel like having such a chunky grip just helps with that ability to have a consistent face control. Because every single miss I've had, it's like I'm good with the ball speed, the strike feels good, I'm just losing them a little bit to the right. I mean, that carried 238, but it definitely would have missed the fairway right. Oh, it's so good on a nice strike though. Like, I love how fast that feels. I think the sound's really pleasing. I mean, there's something to be said for like the consistency of distance here, because in no way have I struck them all like the same, and literally everyone has gone basically the same distance. Like, look how consistent that is. But can you see how there's quite a lot more to the right side? Which is personally, I just feel like it's really hard to consistently shut this face because of the grip size. I would also say so far the spin is definitely a little bit higher here than what I've got with other low spin models. Apart from that absolute low spinning bullet I hit, the rest have kind of all being in like the mid to high 2000s, which could be a little bit too high for some people. Okay, so let's move into the main Aerojet model now. I've lofted this down 1.5 on the hosel, so it should be playing like 9 degrees. Hopefully it doesn't affect the face angle too much. Now this is meant to have like 2.5 more yards of draw bias than we saw in last year's LTDX, so it'll be interesting to see just how much the dispersion here differs compared to the LS. Now you can see straight away behind the ball here, this head is a little bit more elongated to the back than we saw with the LS. The LS is definitely a little bit more kind of compact from that kind of over the ball view. That definitely started a lot more online. Also went very high though. I'm not sure jacking the loft down has helped massively. Over 95 mile an hour there, which is a bit quicker than it was, which I wouldn't have expected. The spin has jumped up a lot. That's gone straight to 3,200, which is quite a lot of spin. Still got 226 carry. Oh, that's nice. Definitely massively straighter than the LS. I mean, obviously the LS is designed for people who don't want to lose the ball to the left. It's very much like that tour player and tied design where people want to see the ball move left to right, which we definitely saw a little bit more. Both those are finished left of the target line, which is pretty good. Oh, that was so nice. That was like my best strike and just flew so nicely. That felt fast. We're really disappointed. It's like not a good carry distance now. Yeah, 232, so that's pretty much back up to what we were seeing with the LS. The spin is quite noticeably higher, so 2,800 there. I do think if I dropped down to just a 9 head, it would be a little bit less. But other than that, the numbers are pretty much optimized, like just under 95 mile an hour club head speed, 1.49 smash, 141.5 ball speed. This does go very high. We're talking like 115 feet of height, but I wouldn't say the LS was excessively lower than that. Maybe only about 5 feet, so there's not loads in it. It's really interesting how high this is going relative to like the loft. Probably wouldn't have expected it to fly so much. I mean, I caught that a bit high, and that was 123 feet. So if you struggle with launch, this is definitely going to help. Again, which is weird, like across both of these models, the distance has been super consistent. Like obviously there's a little bit of width to the dispersion because I'm hitting driver, but like look how consistent the front to back dispersion is of the distance with both of them. Okay, last up is the Max. Again, I've set this down to 9 degrees using the hosel, just for a little bit of consistency. Now this is designed to be the most draw bias model, and they're saying it's going to draw 8 yards more than last year's, which seems a lot. Now, it's quite interesting to point out here, you've got adjustable weights on the sole, so if you want to add even more draw bias, you can flip this heavier weight from the back and put it in the heel, so that'll make it draw more. But moving that weight from the back will kind of affect like the launch and stuff like that a little bit, because having more weight at the back is going to help you get high launch. So it's worth testing it out, but probably best doing it in a fitting where you can see what the real differences are and which is more optimal for you in your swing. I can hit the ball left, so I'm going to leave the heavier weight at the back. It's definitely a bit drop kicky, but it went dead straight. Now this is a bigger kind of like elongated shaped head, because the idea is this is like the most extreme forgiving model, and the way they've really driven that up is through this kind of power bridge on the front, which connects all the way from the heel to the toe. We have more weight in this area, and we have more weight in the heel and toe. Having more weight on the edges just helps on those off-center strikes in terms of twisting and keeping the club head more stable. So it's going to mean if you don't hit out the middle, there's going to be more forgiveness. The feel of that is so nice on a good shot. That's literally gone dead straight down the flag. Now, as we would kind of expect on like that trajectory that I talked about and the differences between the models earlier, this has spun a lot more, so that's 3,200. So really on kind of the high end in terms of spin. I think that has probably affected my carry distance a little bit. It's carried at 221, but also just kind of This head is built for more like forgiveness and draw bias, so speed and like distance isn't the number one priority. So I would expect this model to be slightly shorter than the other two. I feel like this is a lot easier to hit than the other two models though. Like I just feel like it's easy launch and kind of easy distance. That's gone miles. That's actually just gone 237. I said this wasn't meant to go long and it just has. Whoops. I didn't mean to drop the club then. You know, the data on that was really good. 236 carry, 141 ball speed, 24 spin, which I'm really pleased with, from 95.7 club head speed. That felt fast. It also is quite left. It started in the fairway, but it's drawn off probably into the left semi. 96 club head speed, 238 carry. This one might actually end up being the longest. Those last three shots have been so consistent. Look at that little grouping up there. That one wasn't quite as long. This one was the best. It's actually interesting just how much like the directional dispersion has moved, because I'm swinging this no different and the LS was like way further right in terms of dispersion. This is clearly like the furthest left consistently, which is good because it's meant to be. That was a bit heely. Still went on the left though. I think the distance will be terrible, but it won't be as good as the others. Yeah, 222. Not terrible for a bad strike. You can see how the spin jumps up loads with this on those strikes, which we didn't really see with the LS, because that's jumped up into 3,300, which is obviously quite a lot. When you catch this, it's fast though, really fast. But you can see for me, like, it's definitely a little bit too left biased, because like my good strikes are ended up in kind of the left rough with the way they move. But if you're someone who has that kind of left to right tendency, you want an anti-slice offering, this is a really great option. And it's actually offering a lot of ball speed, which some of the other anti-slice offerings on the market aren't doing. They're a little bit slower. I got 143 ball speed out of that, which is very decent. So let's do like a quick recap on like the comparisons there. It was pretty close, to be honest, in terms of all things. There wasn't like a massive amount in terms of distance that differed between the three models. And I think that's pretty good, because I don't think you should have to pick a model based on one that gives you the most distance. You should be able to pick one that gives you the right spin properties or the right launch or the right shot shape, and the distance is consistent across them. Because I think a lot of times people will just go for like a smaller club head because they can swing it faster and they can get more distance out of it, but then it won't necessarily match up to like the rest of the game. They won't get the right amount of spin, they won't get the right amount of control. All three of the averages of this, the carry distance only vary by 3 yards. So there's not one of these that you're picking based on the most distance. The longest was the Aerojet LS. That came in at 233 yards on average. It was pretty good in terms of distance. I would say for me, probably it actually was a little bit too fade bias. I do feel like that would improve with a smaller grip, because I did feel like I struggled to just square the face up properly with like the size of the current one. But just on this data alone, possibly a little bit too fade bias. I'd say the main Aerojet model was much more kind of in that middle dispersion for me. And in terms of like front to back dispersion, it was almost identical to the LS, so that's really nice. It definitely was a little bit further left. I think for someone who hits it very straight or maybe has a slight fade, this is going to help because it has a tiny little bit of draw bias, but nowhere near as much as the Max offering. Now the Aerojet dispersion was a little bit more interesting because there was a little bit more front to back variation. I think that's probably because I was generating so much like launch and spin with this, which probably wasn't optimal for me, but actually I got my longest shot of the like whole testing with this. So it shows like there is still really good distance there, but there is also a massive draw biased help. So if you're someone who just needs help hitting the ball further left, this is going to be a perfect option out of these three lineup. Now I think all three of these have great properties in terms of like the distance and dispersion we're seeing here. It's really up there with the other models on the market this year. So I think this is going to be a great performer. You just need to pick the right model and find which one suits your needs.